The insane wealth of Russian oligarchs. First of all, what exactly is an oligarch? Well, it's a person who belongs to a small group of individuals who hold the power and privileges of a country. In the 1990s, the dissolution of the USSR led to the emergence of oligarchs. Under then-President Yeltsin, there were 7 of them, calling themselves the Semi-Bankershina, or 7 bankers. Oil, media, banking. They monopolized the country's wealth, often in opaque conditions. Sometimes, they even had links with organized crime. But when Putin came to power in 2000, he no longer wanted these liberal oligarchs to have a hold on his country and, accidentally, they were either exiled, imprisoned or killed. Only 2 of them, Friedman and Potanin, slipped through the net. Once alone in power, Putin surrounded himself with new confidants, which led to the emergence of new oligarchs and consequently new billionaires. Of Russia's 500 biggest fortunes, which control 40% of the country's wealth, 23 of these oligarchs are among the world's wealthiest. The best known of them all is Roman Abramovich. At 57, he's undeniably close to the Kremlin. Some even say he whispers in Putin's ear. With an estimated fortune of 8 billion euros, he's not the richest, but his background is fascinating. Born poor and orphaned, he became an oil tycoon, then a sports tycoon, buying Chelsea Soccer Club in 2003 for £140 million before selling it for £4.17 billion in 2022, making it the largest sum ever spent on a sports team. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, he has also become the mediator between the two countries, which not only keeps him in Putin's good graces, but also enables him to avoid certain Western sanctions on his fortune, despite the fact that some of his assets have still been frozen. If Roman Abramovich is the best known, the richest of them all is Vazit Alekperov. Thanks to his Lukoil oil company, he is today the richest man in Russia and is ranked 59th in the world. At 74, his fortune stands at almost 27 billion euros. Even though he has resigned from his company, he still holds significant shares, which has enabled him to rise in 2024 from 7th to 1st richest man in Russia. Despite the war in Ukraine and the sanctions on Russian fortunes, the oligarchs continue to get richer. Russia's richest men, yes, they're all men, added $72 billion to their fortunes last year, bringing their collective wealth to $577 billion. Despite the sanctions, they're getting richer and more numerous. Some are trying to slip through the net of European sanctions, like Mikhail Friedman. Mikhail Friedman, 59, is the founder of Alfa, one of Russia's largest banks. The proud owner of a 12 billion euro fortune and obviously close to Vladimir Putin, he too was targeted by sanctions before being cleared by the European courts for lack of evidence of his support for the war in Ukraine and the annexation of Crimea. But the oligarch who fares best is Vladimir Potanin. Nicknamed the Nickel King, he made his fortune in the 1990s after the collapse of the USSR by forming Nornickel, a company specializing in the mining and processing of nickel, a white metal indispensable for the manufacture of cars and trains. At 63, he is the 5th richest man in Russia with a fortune of around 22 billion euros. A former KGB agent, Vladimir Putin, let him steer his own course as long as he stayed out of politics, which gave him time to forge links with the West, notably via the arts, since he has given lavishly to many European museums such as the Centre Pompidou, for example. However, it was above all his nickel business that saved him, since many European countries could not do without this product. This is why, despite his loyalty to Putin, the oligarch has not been targeted by EU sanctions. On the other hand, he has been sanctioned by the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, but again, he has escaped by relocating his production to China. If there's one thing to remember about Russia's oligarchs, it's that they're serious businessmen.